Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Sam Furio. I'm the Outreach Coordinator for MDE's Building Decarbonization team. Our team is responsible for implementing the Building Energy Performance Standards. I will be moderating this afternoon working group session. For those of you that have emailed the Building Decarbonization team or given us a call, I am the face behind the email. So appreciate you all continuing to attend our outreach and working group sessions. This is the second session of the exemption process working group. We will be reviewing exemption forms and explain supporting documentation that must be provided for an eligible exemption request. I know there's a lot of shifting going around on the screen that you might not all be used to. We're having some technical difficulties with the webinar this afternoon, but that should slow down for us, and then we can hone in on some content. But today we've got some special guests. We've got the rest of the Building Decarbonization team here with us today. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Chris Spencer, the Building Decarbonization Technical Specialist, and also Dr. Zach Brazola, aka Dr. Decarb, the section head, who will also be presenting today. So there's Zach. Chris popped on camera and waved. So thank you both for being here. Just a few things before we get started. So if this is your first working group session, or it's been a couple months since you've been to one, this session will be recorded and uploaded to the BEPS YouTube playlist that you can find on MDE's YouTube page. So we will share a link to the slides presented today in the description of that video when it's posted to the YouTube playlist. And as per usual with our working group and informational sessions, we'll work to get to Q&A at the end of this session if time allows. And so the chat has been disabled. And so if you're interested in submitting a question to us and our team, you can do so by clicking on the activities button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. It's a circle, triangle, square. So you can click on that, go to Q&A, and submit what questions you're thinking of and what's on your mind about BEPS. And we'll work to address those at the end of the session as time allows. We'll also be doing a poll question at the beginning of this session. And so you can access the poll feature via this activities button as well, circle, triangle, square. That's where you need to go. So let's start with a little more detail on BEPS. If you need more information than what we're presenting today, you can find plentiful resources on the BEPS website. It's you can access the website via the QR code on the left side of the screen or by searching Maryland BEPS in Google. We've transitioned to a new style of emailing. People interested in learning more about BEPS. We've switched to a new platform. And so if you're interested in getting information on upcoming working groups and informational sessions that the department is holding, I just encourage you to scan that QR code on the right side of the screen. It'll take you to a new sign-up platform, and you can see what working groups we're holding and make sure that you get the latest scheduled sessions and the new access links. So I'd encourage you to check that. And as always, if you have questions for our team, you can contact us via the email on the screen, beps.mde@maryland.gov, or give us a call at 410-537-3183. So today we'll be reviewing the BEPS exemption process, showing the new BEPS portal 1.0 that was just released in January. You can find that on the BEPS website today as well. You'll now be able to submit exemption requests that you learn about today via this portal. And towards the end of this presentation, we've got Dr. Decarb here with us today, so we got to do a couple frequently asked questions. So stay tuned for that near the end of this slide deck. So agenda for today's webinar, pretty short agenda. We're going to talk BEPS updates, what's new in 2025 for BEPS. It's been a couple months since we've had an exemption process working group session. And so we just want to reiterate what's a BEPS exemption, what's the process look like, what do you need to do? And then we're going to go through some of the exemption forms that you all provided feedback on previously, and that are now ready to and able to be submitted to the department. And then, as I mentioned, Q&A as time allows. So first things first, let's get a poll going to read the room. If you go to that circle, triangle, square button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, labeled activities, you can get to the poll feature. And we're going to launch the first poll. So that first poll question is, have you submitted an exemption request on the BEPS portal? And so poll should be available on the screen for you. So just take a minute or so and fill out what's relevant for you. Yes, I have already submitted one. No, but I plan to submit one soon. No, I'm not going to submit one. I'm just here to learn about the process. So take a minute and let us know what you're thinking. Again, to access the poll, circle, triangle, square, bottom right-hand corner of the screen. All righty. So got 26 votes in. We're going to end that poll. We're going to show the results. All right, so results for poll question 1. Have you submitted an exemption request on the BEPS portal? Looks like most folks are just here to learn about the process. That's great. I love that you guys are staying informed. And some folks are saying no, but I plan to submit one soon. So you're in the right place. We're going to go through those steps today. So appreciate you joining, and hopefully you'll have what you need to know by the end of this session. All right. So 2 poll questions today. We're getting a little wild with it. So go back to that circle, triangle, square activities button. We're going to launch the next poll. There it goes. So for those who have submitted an exemption request on the BEPS portal, do you have any questions? Yes, no.
Sam, nobody's answered. Nobody submitted it yet. So maybe we just keep moving.
Gotcha.
Or I mean, if you have questions, yeah, I mean, you can answer if you have questions too. That's fine. We can just, if you are, for the folks that haven't but plan to submit one soon, let's just rephrase it that way. For the folks that haven't submitted an exemption request yet, but are planning to, do you have any questions? Little change on the fly as we go here, everybody.
Yep. Thanks for that clarification. All right. We're going to end that one. No questions, good. If you do, anything comes up, circle, triangle, square, Q&A button, bottom right-hand corner. That's where you let us know what you're thinking. All right. So just as I said, first part of the agenda for today, we are going to talk 2025 BEPS, some new updates in this new year. So got some updates for you on the screen. December 23rd, 2024, Building Energy Performance Standards for Maryland were finalized. So they're in effect for the state. And so if you've tuned into previous webinars and just the regulation itself, you know that the benchmarking and reporting deadline set forth is June 1st each year. Now, we released a compliance advisory recently saying that in an effort to assist building owners with their new transition to the new BEPS requirement, the department intends to treat all initial benchmarking reports submitted by September 1st, 2025 as timely. So just know you've got a couple extra months there. If you get us your reports in by September 1st, that will be considered timely. So this will give building owners more time to meet the initial 2025 BEPS requirements. And importantly for this group, that BEPS portal I mentioned 1.0 is live on the website today. And so on that portal, you can search for your unique building identifiers, also known as UBIDs. The covered buildings list is accessible via that portal, and also exemption forms. So pretty crucial to what we're talking about. So you can get there via BEPS website. And additionally, thanks to all your feedback throughout the working group process. If you've been involved in the 2024 working groups, we've updated the benchmarking guide in 2025 and just released that this month. So that's going to be the one-stop shop, all you need to know to start benchmarking and get ready for the first requirements in 2025. So hot off the press, there's plenty of entry points into benchmarking, looking through this guide, reading through high-level overviews on the BEPS website, and looking through Portfolio Manager FAQs and other resources. So this guide includes guidance for benchmarking in Energy Star Portfolio Manager, exclusions and special cases, including for those of you in Montgomery County, or if you know building owners in Montgomery County, alignment. That's this document talks about alignment between Montgomery County's BEPS and state BEPS, and then also a campus compliance guide and instructions on district energy benchmarking. So that's going to be a great resource for all of you. And additionally, this year you're going to have to submit energy data to MDE, and you may have to request that from your utility provider. And so there's a document available on the website today called Connecting with Your Energy Data Provider. You're going to choose what utility provider is relevant for you. Maybe it's BG&E, maybe it's Pepco, Potomac Edison, whoever it may be. And you can read about their data request process, relevant contact information, and resources that can help you get your data to complete your benchmarking reports. So that's a really important document as well. And I think that combined with benchmarking will get you to a good launching point for this year. So just before I hand it over to Dr. Decarb to run us through some forms, I just want to go through reviewing what's a BEPS exemption, what's the process look like, and also just rehash what the specific exemption types are. So these are repeats from the last working group presentation, but a building owner may apply for their building to be exempt from complying with the benchmarking and building energy performance standard for multiple reasons. To apply for an exemption, a building owner must submit the appropriate exemption request form to the department via the BEPS portal and upload any required documentation. The department will thoroughly evaluate each exemption request. Resubmissions for exemption status may be required by the department. So just rehashing what the process looks like. So let's talk what exemptions are available within the regulation. So we've got this updated graphic on the screen that I'm going to walk you through step by step. So on the left side of the screen, we have the total exemptions, and all of these total exemptions can be applied for today. The exemptions on the right side of the screen will be coming soon. The forms to submit for these exemptions will be coming soon, so keep that in mind. But the total exemptions on the left, I'm going to walk you through them. You only got to apply for these once if your building's eligible. And as I just said, we'll make a determination of exemption. And so those are buildings designated as historic by local, state, or federal law. Those are public and non-public elementary and secondary schools, manufacturing buildings, agricultural buildings, demolished buildings, and buildings owned by the federal government. So those buildings can all apply for exemption today through the BEPS portal, and the department will review those forms and make a determination. And so, like I said, the exemptions on the right, the forms will be made available soon via the BEPS portal, and those are opportunities for reduced alternative compliance payments for providers of affordable housing, and this also extends to providers of naturally occurring affordable housing. And so those forms will be available soon. There's another total exemption available for properties experiencing financial distress or no occupancy. And for those exemptions, you'll have to apply annually. And there's also an exemption for properties hoping to delay their baseline energy performance establishment because they're experiencing lower occupancy rates at that time and it doesn't represent their building's actual energy use. So there's a delay for baseline determination, and that's you're eligible to apply for that up to 3 times if you meet the occupancy eligibility. So those are the available exemptions. Now, I just wanted to dive a little bit deeper into these exclusions, and let's say that your property isn't exempt, and you need to start reporting energy use to the department this year. There's certain energy exclusions that can be removed from your Energy Star Portfolio Manager profile, and there's guidance on how to take out that use in the benchmarking guide. And so that's energy use associated with food service facilities, electric vehicle charging, heating of outdoor pools, parking lots, combustion equipment if it's required by a state or federal law, and then other ESPM or Energy Star Portfolio Manager exclusions listed in the regulations technical memorandum, which you can find online today on the BEPS website. And so with that, we're going to go through the BEPS portal now, and I'm going to let Dr. Decard walk you through that. So I'm going to hand this mic over to him, and he's going to walk you through that in the forms. So take it away, Zach, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Thank you all for being here today. So you're probably wondering, how do I get to the BEPS portal? If you haven't seen our emails yet, we'll walk you through it. And for those of you that came last week to our benchmarking and reporting working group, this is going to look very familiar. You're going to be an expert by the time we're done. And we'll go through the exemption forms as well, so that'll be new for you. So the first thing to do is to go to the BEPS website, mde.maryland.gov/BEPS. We put it in the chat. And you're going to click on the yellow banner at the top that says the BEPS portal and next steps. Click here. You click to that, and you're going to get to our next page, which I like to think about as the getting started guide. It's going to provide you some information and a high-level overview of what's going on in the portal and with the regulation. It's got resources like the benchmarking guide and our guidance on how to get energy data from your utility providers. And so this is all really important information, and we want you to read through that page. And once you've read through it, you can get all the way to the bottom, and you will see the big thing that says Enter Portal, click here. That link's not going to take you, then you're going to actually go to the BEPS portal. And when you get to the BEPS portal, and on that page, there's, again, lots of regulation resources, portfolio manager resources, and other information to help you actually do the benchmarking and comply with BEPS. So we encourage you to read through all of that. Once you've clicked on that big green button at the bottom of the portal page, or bottom of the Get Started page, you'll get to the actual portal itself. And so on the portal, you'll see this is really our main function here, is the covered buildings list. So most building owners are going to come here and search for their building. And this list is going to be constantly updated as building owners apply for exemption or add their buildings to the list. So this is very much a live document changing over time. And just a quick reminder, you're going to need the UBID, this fancy looking string of numbers and letters, in order to submit your benchmarking report to MDE. And so that's going to be how you need to go to this list to find the UBID. Most building owners, however, are not going to do anything on this portal other than get their UBID. And I see someone's raised their hand. Just put your question in the Q&A. We're going to take those at the end. So that's the best way. And if we put the instructions for how to get to the Q&A in the chat. That's the circle, triangle, square button at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So back to this, once you come here, you're going to want to search for your buildings, and this applies for exemption 2. We'll talk about this in a moment, but the easiest way is first filter on your city and county, and then you can filter on street address to come down to what you think your building is, and that usually helps you, and you can confirm that your building is correct by actually clicking on that UBID. It's a link. It'll take you to a map where you can see the building that we've identified on a map. You can also see on the screen the primary use type on the right side, multifamily housing here. There's also an estimated floor area that's just off the screen right now. That is based, those data is based on public tax records. So it might be different than what your actual building is. And that's going to be edited once you submit your benchmarking report if you're benchmarking. And for exempt buildings, that's going to edit as things go over time. You might submit and say, this is a manufacturing building, and we're going to update that primary use type to say manufacturing, for example, and exempt if that's determination was made. So don't worry about those specific things in this case. So I want to go through the exemption request forms that are available today on the BEPS portal and how you're going to get to them. So the first thing to do is once you've found your building and search for it, you're going to click on that little clipboard, the action button. And if this is your first time in the portal, you're going to need to log in or register. So for a new user, you're going to have to register a new user. And the way that's going to look is providing a little bit of information about you and putting in an email and a password. And then you're going to get an email for you to confirm your account. And you have to confirm your account in that email before you log back in. It won't let you through. In fact, it'll tell you you've got a wrong password. 9 times out of 10, if it tells you you've got a wrong password, it's usually because you haven't confirmed your account yet. So do that, confirm the account, then come back in and log in. And once you've done that, having clicked that action item and logged in, you'll come to this page, which is the list of all the different exemptions that are available right now. We have additional forms coming soon, but these are all the major exemption categories that we're mostly thinking about in this first stage of the process. And so that's kind of the starting place is all these different ones. And I just want to make a note before I go any further and dive into the actual ones. If you go through, you search the list, you don't find your building, you can, in the instructions, there's a place to click and submit a request to get a UBID to have your building added to this list. And in order to submit an exemption request, you do need to have your building on the list initially. And that's an important for helping us just track everybody and make sure that we're keeping track of who's in and who's out and all the buildings. So you're going to click on this link, and it's going to basically send you into request a UBID, and you've got to provide some information, namely the information about the building, including the latitude and longitude. And we've got a handy link to go into Google Maps, and you right click on your building and it gives you the latitude and longitude. It's pretty straightforward, but that just ensures that we create the right UBID for your building. And we'll get back to you with a UBID as soon as possible. And from there, then you can move forward with submitting a request. But in the meantime, you can gather the documentation required for submitting your exemption requests. We also know there's a couple of buildings on the portal that don't have an assigned UBID yet. Those should be fixed pretty soon. In those cases, don't worry about that too much, and we'll be updating it. And yeah, just like all the forms as you'll see in a minute, you've got to attest that this is truthful and correct to the best of your knowledge and sign it. And then with that, now we're getting into the actual exemption forms. All of the forms are the same at the top. They've got contact information for the person submitting the request, and then some information about the building. Really important, you're submitting for the right building. Here's one we just happened to pick off the top of the list. Filling in the building owner name and phone number and things like that, and then the contact information as well. And this form, this is kind of the same across all of the different forms. So let's start going through that whole list of exemption forms. The first one is historic buildings. You must provide documentation showing the covered building meets the exemption criteria, which is that a historic building or space within a building must be individually designated as a historic building under federal, state, or local law, separate and apart from that building's inclusion in the historic district. And so that's the kind of key definition here. It is at the building level. And then the rest of the form, is it listed on the covered buildings list for everybody right now? The answer is going to be yes, because you've got to get that UBID to submit the form and associate it with the building. Then you're going to provide a detailed description of why this qualifies as a historic property. It could be probably a sentence or two, but it's a few sentences just to provide a little bit of background on what you're submitting and why. Because sometimes when you look at something you're submitting, it might not be that clear off the bat. And this will just speed up the process if you kind of can help tell us what you're submitting and why. And then speaking of attachments, you're going to provide evidence that that building is designated as a historic property under federal, state, or local law, that it could include a copy of the building's listing on the National Register, a proclamation or law from your local city or county government, or a determination of National Register eligibility by the Maryland Historical Trust. And then you certify just like every other form and submit. So onwards to schools. Most school buildings in the state that are owned by a local government, we've done some work to try to remove them. We're going to make that a little bit clearer going forward, what's out and what's in. But if your building is listed on there as a school, for most buildings, whether you're listed, for all buildings in the state, whether you're listed or not on the covered buildings list, you have to either submit a request for UBID if you meet the covered building criteria. And for these exempt buildings, go through this process of submitting exemption. That way there's no question that you're exempt. But so kind of with the schools, if there's any that are on there, or there's any that were missed when we push up the list of those that we know about, you're going to be looking for these things and basically saying, is it used as an elementary or secondary school instructional building? And if not, how is it used? And then certifying. So moving on to manufacturers. Manufacturing building is a building involved in the process of substantially transforming or a substantial step in the process of substantially transforming tangible personal property into a new and different article of tangible personal property by the use of labor or machinery, or otherwise designated as manufacturing building by the department. So again, put in some information about the manufacturing activities in the building, provide a description of what the manufacturing going on in the building is, and provide some sort of evidence to show that floor plan, permits, whatever, that can kind of provide a little bit of more backstop to what you're saying, and then attest and submit. On to agricultural buildings. Noticing a theme, they're all very similar. It's meant to be pretty quick and straightforward with information you already have on hand. We're trying to keep this pretty streamlined, but we want to ensure that the buildings that are getting exempted, because this is a pretty big exemption, you're out from benchmarking and reporting and performance standards. We want to make sure that those buildings are meet the requirements written in the regulation. So for agricultural building, it's a structure that is used primarily to cultivate, manufacture, process, or produce agricultural crops, raw materials, products, livestock, or commodities, including a greenhouse. Provide a description, and then provide some sort of attachment, a permit, license, aerial photo that shows that it is doing what it says it is, what meets that definition. Federal buildings, same kind of thing, owned by the federal government. And please provide an attachment to that extent. Less than 35,000 square feet. This is for buildings that are under 35,000 square feet that are listed. Again, the estimated floor area that we'll show is all over 35,000 square feet, but we know that sometimes that data is not quite right. So if you're listed and you're under 35,000 square feet, just to get off the list, you could submit this. We also heard a case of a couple of parking garages that were listed. For us, that parking garage area is also not included in that 35,000 square feet or greater. So you could, if you've got a parking garage, you can use the same one, and in the description you can just say that this is a parking garage, so the effective square footage is 0. I know that's kind of a random one, but just wanted to, I know we got a couple of questions about that. And so this one kind of catches a few of those. And again, just provide some evidence, including, an aerial photo could work for this one as well. If it's a parking garage or a floor plan is really a good one if you're saying it's under 35,000 square feet. And with that, one more, demolished buildings. So if your building is fully demolished during the calendar year for which benchmarking is being required, so if your building was fully demolished during calendar year 2024, which is what this reporting cycle this year is all about, you can submit this, and we'll pull the building off the list and say it's demolished. Partially demolished buildings or buildings undergoing renovation do not qualify for this exemption. We have this separate, Sam mentioned it, some of these under-occupied, I'd call it, temporary exemptions, right? This is, you've demolished your building, it is out for good because there is no more building there. That's very different from something that you're, still exists in some way, shape, or form. You've got to provide the date it was demolished and some other details as necessary, and then any attachments to prove that. As I said before, this is a partial list. All these exemption forms are kind of the first thing we know people are working on. There are more forms coming for those unoccupied buildings, for required combustion equipment, for baseline establishment delay, campus compliance, district energy systems. These are all coming soon, and they'll populate onto that same place as all the others. So just if you don't see it yet, just be patient. We did preview a whole bunch of these in the fall and at the last working group, I believe. And so you can go back and look at that recording if you want to find out more information about what needs to go on a campus compliance pathway application, for example, and start preparing for as they go up live on the website. And let's keep moving into questions. Oh, actually, sorry, I skipped this one. We mentioned this in a follow-up to the last working group. This came out in an email to everybody after the last working group. This kind of key information about, if you're exempted and it's taking a little while to review all those exemptions, that would be fine for this first year. But if you're determined not to be exempt, you're going to have to provide that prior year benchmarking reports by the next reporting deadline. I'll just note again, we have this new flexibility that was announced after this. So now the kind of September 1st is that timely deadline, timely submission of reports deadline. So there should be more time to get through some of those exemption requests. So please submit those exemption requests early. And that's the other thing I just wanted to mention. Now we're kind of moving in a good direction. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Sam to moderate the FAQ and Q&A.
Alrighty. Thank you, Dr. Decarb. And as I mentioned, we've got Dr. Decarb here today. He's got the lab coat on. We got to run through some FAQs with him. So, these FAQs came from previous webinars and working groups that we've been receiving questions all along, and if we're not able to get to them during the session, we'll work to address them in future sessions or get them out to you in other ways. So these are some questions that we've been receiving from folks regarding the portal and other new content that we've been releasing. So I'm gonna pitch them to Dr. Decarb here, and just a reminder again for anyone joining late, if we're going to have Q&A after these FAQs. So if you need to submit a question, something's on your mind, there's the Q&A feature, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, circle, triangle, square, it says activities. You can get to Q&A there. So submit your question, and we'll work to get to that as time allows. So without further ado, first FAQ for Zach. Do I need to register to see if my building is a covered building? Zach, do you think you can walk through that one for them?
Yeah. Again, this is a pretty straightforward one. If you're just standard benchmarking, you're going to create your account portfolio manager, submit that data. Before you do it, you have to get your UBID from the portal. All you have to do is search for your building, copy that UBID, flop it into portfolio manager. You don't have to do anything with registering, submitting any forms. This portal is just for use if you're doing exemptions right now. So that does not apply. You don't need to register.
All right. Thank you. First FAQ down. On to the next one. Do I need to register on the BEPS portal to submit my benchmarking report to the department?
Oh, I just answered that one in my last answer. The answer is no. You only need a portal account if you're submitting a form to the department.
There you go. All right. 2 down. Zach, what should I do if I have a building over 35,000 square feet that is not listed on the BEPS portal?
Yeah, if your building is not listed, then go to that link we showed you. It's right at the top of the portal page, and request to add your building to the covered buildings list. You'll be prompted at that case to log in or register for an account, and then we'll make sure to send you a unique building identifier, a UBID. So in this case, you do need to register and put it through.
All right. Thank you. Next FAQ for you. We have received several questions regarding the definition of manufacturing. So I'm going to read through that for you. Manufacturing building, a building involved in the process of substantially transforming or substantial step in the process of substantially transforming tangible personal property into a new and different article of tangible personal property by the use of labor or machinery, or otherwise designated as manufacturing building by the department. Do you think you can add anything there, Zach, or any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, what I can add is the definition in the regulation that we put up on the screen is the definition of manufacturing. So if you think you meet that definition, submit an exemption request and explain why you meet that definition, provide the documentation to show it, and the department's going to review all requests. That's kind of, if you could email us and ask us the same thing, or ask us about your specific scenario, and we're going to just tell you to please submit an exemption request, because that has to be determined based on all the facts presented. So we can't tell you in most cases, right off the bat, yes, no. That's, for it to be binding and important, you need to submit an exemption request.
All right. Thank you. Next one for you, Dr. Decarb. Do you think you could talk about buildings that are leased? Who's obligated to submit exemption requests and benchmarking reports?
Yeah, good question. And I know we're here in the exemption group. This got asked in the last exemption group, so we wanted to make sure that we came back and talked about this here too for you all. The BEPS regulation is really on the building owner. So to apply for an exemption, that building owner must submit an exemption request form to the department along with supporting documentation. In general, the regulation obligates the building owner to submit benchmarking reports to MDE, but it also obligates tenants to provide the data to the building owner that they cannot otherwise obtain. For example, the data request from their utility to get your electric and gas consumption data. For most people, that's going to come right from your electric and or gas utility. But the tenant does have obligations to provide it if you cannot otherwise obtain it. So ultimately, as the building owner, you own the building. You're the one that is in charge of benchmarking, submitting exemption requests, etc.
Thank you. All right, final FAQ. What if my building has been partially demolished, but the gross floor area is still greater than 35,000 square feet?
Yeah, you're definitely, in this case, a covered building still. You're over 35,000 square feet. Again, if you're not subject to 35,000 square feet or greater, you're still a covered building. Again, if you're not one of the exempt types that we're talking about today. So benchmark as normal, and just make sure that you update and adjust the floor area if that building's still in use, right? This does happen. You're kind of renovating, you demolish one wing, but keep another part, or adjusting. So totally possible. Just keep benchmarking, but make updates to the floor area as necessary. And then, but if you've kind of knocked down half the building, but the other half is not yet knocked down and it's still standing, but it's totally empty, we have that unoccupied building exemption. That's an annual thing, and you'd apply for that. And if you're just going to knock down that other half this next year, then that's a clear reason. Well, okay, get you out for this year because you're unoccupied and you've got half a building standing, and then next year when it's all gone, you just apply for the demolition exemption. So should work pretty smoothly that way.
All right. Thank you, Dr. DeCarb. All right, so with that, we are closing out the FAQ portion of today's webinar. And so I just wanted to, before we move into Q&A, touch on a couple last things here. Next meeting for the working group, what's coming up next? Well, the department's going to be hosting some office hours to assist in, answering your questions. And so, stay tuned for the availability of those office hours. And if you haven't looked at our new email platform yet, we're sending out working group scheduling, access links, etc. through a new platform. So I'd urge you to get to the website, the BEPS website today, to sign up for all of our email lists, the new working groups we're hosting, and through there you can get more information on these office hours and their timing. So stay tuned for that. And as always, we really appreciate everyone attending. And if you have questions for us outside of the working group as you're digging into the documents we talked about today, benchmarking guide, connecting with your energy data provider, which we're going to get you links to. We'll also have them in the description of the YouTube video. But if you have questions outside of all of that, you can reach out to us at beps.mde@maryland.gov or give us a call, 410-537-3183. So that's going to close out the slide deck for today, and we're going to move into Q&A. So without further ado, we're going to jump in. If you joined late, or if you lost track of where the Q&A was, circle, triangle, square button, bottom right-hand corner is labeled activities. Click there, you can get to Q&A and submit us your question. So let's get in here and see what people are wondering. Okay. All right, Zach, I got the first question for you coming up when you're ready. I will be helping building owners with their reporting. Do they need to sign these exemption forms, or can I do it as their agent?
Yeah, great question. You'll note I didn't call it out, but there's an affiliation. When you go to the signatures, there's the option to pick an affiliation, and you can kind of say in there authorized representative. And again, MDE is not getting in the middle of who's authorized and who's not. That's between you and the building owner. But if you're authorized to act on their behalf, go ahead and submit that form for them. And you can just kind of choose that authorized representative as your affiliation.
All right, thank you, Zach. Thank you for that great question. All right, going back in. Let's see what we got coming up. So regarding navigating the portal, Zach, is it possible to view these exemption forms we're discussing without having to register for a BEPS account? As this person's wondering about sharing information with, friends, clients about what forms are available, and just wondering if they need an account to do so.
Yeah, great question. You do need an account, and that's just so that we ensure we're tracking properly everybody's submissions of these forms. We want to, these are legally binding forms. We need to track them from the start to finish. So that's why we require the account. And as you'll notice too, we tried to autofill a lot of information as best we can from the line of the building that you're viewing, and to reduce the workload on everybody. So you do need to, but you can, register for an account and just go click and look at one. That's fine. Just don't submit it if you're don't belong to that building. So you can always do it that way. Also, the recording of this presentation will be available on YouTube after. Give us a little bit to get it posted, but in a relatively short time frame, we'll have this up on our YouTube page, and you'll be able to go and look at it yourself and share that if you want to just walk people through it as well. So the short answer is no. The long answer is there's easy ways to still share it with other folks.
Thanks, Zach. And yeah, just add that alongside the recording, we'll have the PDF of the slide deck in the description as well. So we'd love you to pitch the recording, but if they don't want to watch the full hour or try and navigate the video, they can just dive in and see the screenshots via the slide deck. So thanks for that great question. Thanks, Zach. All right. What do we got next? Okay, so here's a question regarding requiring or requesting energy data from a utility provider. Zach, if their utility company does not have a process defined for requesting energy data, can this covered building owner or a person representing a covered building owner receive additional time to submit reports?
Yeah, so I just pasted in the chat our energy data request, connecting with your energy data provider guidance document. We went through all the utilities in all the electric and gas companies in Maryland and listed out their process. So every single electric and gas company that we know of in Maryland, based on our work with the Public Service Commission, is listed there. So I would send you there to find out, because I am pretty sure that you're going to find your your electric or gas company on there. If your electric or gas company is not on there, feel free to email the BEPS email right on the screen. Look how convenient that is, beps.mde@maryland.gov, with the name of your electric or gas company, so that we can make sure to update that list. I mean, the other thing too, it's January. With that extension that we were talking about, you have till September 1st to get this data, and utility providers are required to provide it to you within 90 days. So you've got a couple of months right now to work through this and get it figured out. Should not be a problem to get that data in time. So you might have to do it if you're, go to that document, find your utility, because they're probably listed there. And if not, email us and we'll definitely work with you to make sure that we can get that sorted out. But you also could have that data through your bills. So if push came to shove, you could also look back at your electric or gas, or in the case of delivered fuels, they might not have for the delivered fuels, you're not necessarily going to have this set up. If you've got deliveries of propane, 3 times last winter, those you have to go and take the bills and do that by, relatively manually or through a spreadsheet method. So you do have to go and do this for certain cases, but you are required to do that by the deadline, and there's requirements on the electric and gas companies to provide this data to you in a timely manner. So hopefully that answers your question. If we missed an electric or gas company, let us know. We'll be happy to work with them to make sure that they get on that list.
Thank you, Zach, and thanks for that great question. And Zach dropping that link in the chat reminded me that the benchmarking guide that we pitched earlier, I don't know if we dropped a link in the chat for that, so I wanted to add that for everyone. So benchmarking guide and the connecting with your energy data provider that Zach dropped is really great launching point for everyone to get kind of all you need to know to learn about Portfolio Manager, getting your energy data, getting accurate property characteristics, and loading them all together to report to us. So those are two great resources to read through. All right. So with that, back into the Q&A. Okay. Dr. D. Carb, is there a way to export the covered buildings list, the data on the covered buildings list in the portal 1.0 to an Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, great question. And we've had a few people ask this. That list is changing constantly. We're making updates to that list pretty frequently. In fact, Sam, I think I saw a question someone asked, hey, I requested a UBID. How long does it take to get that data? Like, we're updating that pretty frequently. It's not every day. We're trying to aim for every week or two. But these things are going to be updated very frequently. So we can't just give you an Excel sheet because it's going to change next week potentially. So the portal is the place to look for that data. And to that person that asked about the turnaround, yeah, we're working on it. It'll be soon. But the good news is you can start benchmarking without a UBID. You can go as far as get it. You can actually connect and share and do everything with us. Put all your benchmarking together, and it's just then you have to do one little edit to put that UBID in later. So we're working on getting it to you quickly, but if you have questions about how to edit your UBID, you can go back and look. We'll be posting to YouTube shortly the benchmarking and reporting working group we had last week, and that we showed in there how to navigate to edit your UBID after you've actually created the property. So not a big issue there, and you can do that, make that change later. So we're working on it. Hopefully that answered two questions in one.
There we go. Very efficient. All right, let's see what's next up in the queue for you. That was the two birds, one stone question. All right, Zach, Energy Star does not give Energy Star scores for detention facilities. What do I do in this case?
Yeah, so Maryland BEPS does not use Energy Star scores. I want to start with that because that's a common misconception. We don't do Energy Star scores in Maryland BEPS. If you want to read more about the performance metrics, the standards that are set are direct emissions. And again, I'll just note this as well for folks, first time benchmarking in Portfolio Manager, because we get this a lot. You actually have to change the default views in Portfolio Manager to see direct emissions. It's not what is normally pops up. Normally they include electricity emissions in that, and that is not part of Maryland BEPS. So you do need to change that. The guidance for how to do that's in that benchmarking guide that Sam shared. But at the end of the day, yeah, no, that's the performance metric that we're working towards. And so there are performance standards in the regulation for 84 different property types, and to figure out which one that detention facility would fall under, you can look at the different performance standards and then actually go onto Portfolio Manager and look at their definitions for each of those. If you have questions of like, am I in this one or that one? Sometimes there's some it's not always the clearest, but Portfolio Manager has some really good definitions for all of those different property types. And you can find that through the FAQ for Portfolio Manager. And I'm just going to drop right in the chat right now. Again, this is all on our Getting Started page for BEP. That's why I told you at the beginning, everything is there that you need to know. It's got the benchmarking guide. It has that Portfolio Manager FAQs and training, right? If you want to find out more about those property types, go to that FAQ section for Portfolio Manager and look up, if you put in property type, it'll help you. But I just dropped in the chat the unofficial, and I know we've dropped so many different links today. They're all going to be available in the YouTube description when we put that up. But this one has the it's the unofficial copy of the regulation text. If you really want to, we tell you how to go find the official one. It's a lot easier to read in this copy. But in this, if you scroll down a couple pages, you'll get to the performance standards and the 84 different property types. And those correspond to the property types you're going to select in Portfolio Manager. So it doesn't matter if you can get an Energy Star score. That's does not matter for Maryland Bets.
Thank you for that. Thanks for that question. Okay, couple minutes left. Let's see what else people are asking. Zach, regarding the portal, someone asked that they noticed there's some buildings that have the county field listed as unknown. Is there a reason why that might be the case?
Eagle eyes out there. Yeah, so there's a couple of little things we're working to fix. I mentioned earlier that some of the UBIDs are missing for a few buildings, and usually these were residential buildings with that unknown county. It just had to do with the data that we pulled together from the state's publicly accessible tax records. Occasionally, it didn't have the county, even though it had some of the other information. You'll also see right now there are some buildings, some listed without a full address. Those are where we know there's a building, and we have from the footprint data that there is a 35,000 square foot or greater building there, but sometimes we don't always have all the addresses, and we're working to fix that. So it's coming. There's improvements that we're working on every day to make that portal better, and it'll just keep getting better. But again, if you look through that list, you don't see your building, maybe it's one of these that's kind of a little bit messed up. If you submit a new one, we're going to be quick to be able to just give you that information through the UBID request. So you can always do that if you don't see your building showing up. So I hope that answered the question.
All right. Thank you, Zach, and thank you to whomever submitted that question. With that, it's 2:59. I think we're going to have to close out Q&A for the day and wrap up the session. Really appreciate everyone attending. Before you all leave, if I know you're hanging tight with us, I just want to drop one more link, spamming you with links, but this is the sign up for other working groups, general updates on the regulation, that if you want to stay tuned into office hours that are coming up, just make sure you're signed up for these lists, and you'll get pinged when those are available for scheduling. So please use that link and sign up, send it to your friends. It's going to be a great resource for everyone. And so really appreciate everyone attending. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us with the contact info on the screen, and we'll see you at office hours here soon. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.